going to do a call and response chant, and I'm going to call, and I hope you respond. Okay, where's my wonderful accompanist and my fabulous drummer?
Here we are.
Okay. I am. All of life is a miracle. Dance to the music of all life. Feel the rhythm of I am. Love flows through me. I am. All of life is a miracle. Dance to the music of all life. Feel the rhythm of I am. Love flows through me. Peace flows through me. I am. All of life is a miracle. All of life is a miracle. Dance to the music of all life. Dance to the music of all life. Feel the rhythm of I am. Feel the rhythm of I am. Love flows through me. Peace flows through me. I am, I am, I am. I am, I am, I am. Life is a miracle. I am, I am. Dance to the music of all life. I am, I am. Feel the rhythm of I am. I am, I am. Love flows through me. I am, I am. Peace flows through me. I am, I am. I am, I am, I am. I am, I am, I am. All of life is a miracle. Dance to the music of all life. Feel the rhythm of I am. I am, I am. I am, I am. I am, I am. I am, I am.
Good morning, everyone. We have been exploring the wisdom of the Toltec people as it is distilled in the book, The Four Agreements, by Don Miguel Ruiz. And so we've gone through a couple of the agreements. Can we have this first PowerPoint, please? The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. The second agreement, don't take anything personally. This morning we're going to delve into the third agreement, don't make assumptions. In our unenlightened perception of life, we are inclined to make assumptions. And when a person makes an assumption, it almost always includes them personally. And so they are then reacting to their own assumption about what someone else is doing or thinking or planning. And so you have a lot of miscommunication going on just within the individual. And because of that, and because the individual takes it personally, then he or she may be spewing poison words, creating more conflict and more animosity. And that's an unfortunate result of making assumptions. So this book, The Four Agreements, attempts to reveal to us our limitations in doing that and the things that occur that we don't really want to happen in relationship to that. Can we have this next PowerPoint? This is Don Miguel Ruiz from the Four Agreements on page 64. All the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. Take a moment to consider the truth of this statement. The whole war of control between humans is about making assumptions and taking things personally. Our whole dream of hell is based on that. Can we take that back again, please? All the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. Take a moment to consider the truth of this statement. The whole war of control between humans is about making assumptions and taking things personally. Our whole dream of hell is based on that. And our whole dream of hell is based on that, but sometimes even our limited taking of assumptions has an interesting turn of events. I remember an article in the New York Post newspaper way back when I lived in New York City, and there had been a rash of purse snatchings and briefcase snatchings in this particular couple of subway areas. And the reason was because the subway was set up in such a way that when a person got off a train, they'd go through this door, it just would swing open. But it would only swing open one way for the exit. And then when it came back, they couldn't. So the purse snatchers would wait by these doors. When somebody went through, they would grab the purse and then quickly close the door. Then they'd get on the train. The person just got off. And they'd go to the next train stop, and they'd had made off with someone's purse or briefcase. And one article in the paper mentioned a particular purse snatcher who snatched this girl's suitcase. She had a suitcase with her, and he grabbed the suitcase, and she got caught And he got on the train and he left with her suitcase. When she told the police, they asked her what was in it. And what was in her suitcase was a dead dachshund. She was on her way to bury her dog. There's nobody else in New York, she had an apartment, but she was going to her aunt's place where her aunt had a backyard, and she was on her way to bury her dachshund in the suitcase. So I guess that person got a really special kind of lesson in crime doesn't pay. I want to share with you this video on the 4 agreements for a few minutes because it's so clear and precisely put. Can we have the video, please?
Now, many of our deepest problems begin with us assuming we know things that we don't, not just about other people, but about ourselves, God, relations, and the world in general. The 3rd agreement is mainly about the relational aspect of this, but it can be a very worthwhile exercise to, on a regular basis, ponder what we truly know and how many irrelevant factors, both inner and outer, shape what we assume. The 3rd agreement in the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is don't make assumptions. This agreement is about freeing oneself from the mental habit of forming assumptions, particularly about other people's actions, thoughts, and motivations. Assumptions tend to create misunderstandings, confusion, and unnecessary conflict in personal relationships and interactions. The agreement encourages us to ask questions, seek clarity, and express what we truly want or need, rather than letting assumptions drive our responses. This does not mean that we don't sometimes need to try and guess the motivations of other people for practical reasons of one sort or another, as when we try to figure out what someone wants when something prevents clear communication, or when we have good reasons not to be satisfied with the answers we've gotten, despite our best efforts at clear communication. What we're talking about here is our ego-based tendency to make up fantasies about what other people think or intend instead of asking questions, and then invest emotions in those assumptions and interact with others based on them. Thus, in daily life, we all make assumptions, sometimes about trivial things, sometimes about important ones. We assume we know what others are thinking, how they feel, or what they mean. Often, we do this without even realizing it, and the consequences can be detrimental. By making assumptions, we frequently set ourselves up for disappointment, frustration, and emotional suffering because we misinterpret situations or over-personalize events. For example, have you ever found yourself upset because a friend didn't call you back, and you assumed they were angry with you? You might replay the last conversation over and over in your mind, looking for reasons why they might be upset. But when you finally talk to them, you learn they were simply busy or preoccupied with something unrelated. All that stress and anxiety were built on an assumption, which had no basis in reality. Furthermore, we assume that others know what we are thinking and feeling. This expectation places an unfair burden on the people around us, leading to disappointment. When they don't respond or behave in the way we assume, it can breed resentment. We feel hurt or betrayed, but in reality, the fault lies in the fact that we never clearly communicated our needs or clarified their intentions. Take a moment to think about how much unnecessary conflict and suffering is caused by this simple habit. For what? Because we have lots of shoulds with regards to other people that are really built on nothing. Some may have heard the saying, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?" You may think that other people should know what you want and wish for without you having to say it. And you may be very convinced that you know what they are thinking or the motives behind their words and actions. And maybe they should know this or that. Maybe your assumptions are correct. And maybe you can even get them to admit all of it. But have you really gained something from it? Has your relationship benefited from it? This is something that you will realize more and more as you wake up from the collective dream, the one that is more and more starting to look like a nightmare for many people. It's about you waking up, and starting to see things more clearly, to see that the rigidity of our egos creates lots of lose-lose situations because of the ego's needy, prideful demands and its illusions that it needs certain things in order to be happy, and that many of these situations could be win-win instead if the ego got out of the way. The tendency to assume often stems from our fears and insecurities, which are also based in the ego. We are afraid to ask questions or express ourselves directly because we fear rejection, confrontation, or appearing vulnerable. Yet, when we replace assumptions with open communication, we take control of our interactions. We remove the veil of misunderstanding and create opportunities for meaningful connections.
It's curious to realize that, this particular book and this particular idea shared in that book was published in 1997. And as I go back and look at the teachings of the different people, all the way back to the Buddha and Lao Tzu and all these masters down through the ages, it's interesting that the truth, they're sharing the same truth about the human, awareness is capable of creating such havoc in a person's own life. I mean, this whole thing here that we're talking about is said very simply by Jesus 2,000 years ago. Judge not, that you be not judged. Because the measure you give will be the measure you get back. And it just goes on. And here she's using the terminology of awakening, which is the terminology that many of the masters use. Because the idea is that we are asleep in the process of living. We are not consciously awake enough or aware enough to realize what holding negative images and embracing negative emotions actually plays out as in our life. And they don't play out well. They play out with conflict. Broken relationships, fear, even broken down divorces. Way back when I came to Boulder, I did general counseling with people. And I was so surprised that so many people were doing relationship counseling. It occurred to me that nobody in Boulder gets married. I was the only one in Boulder who was married, and eventually the idea caught on. No, Boulder is a catch and release place. That's how it goes. Whatever anybody says to you in a relationship here in Boulder, I love you, you're the best thing that ever happened to me, I think we're soulmates. Just say, always add to that statement in your mind, for now. Anyway, while I had done quite a bit of relationship counseling, it was obvious that people were having all kinds of problems with assumptions. Back in that day, I'm not so sure it's as true today as it was back then. And I'm talking, 40 years here. But back then, the assumption was that when you moved in with somebody, quite often, they would assume the stereotypical idea that she would do her wifely chores and he would do his masculine or manly chores. She would do the dishes and he would take the trash out and walk the dog instead of going to the sports bar with his friends. And you cannot imagine the amount of conflict that happened because people were not clear with each other. They each made assumptions about what living together was going to be. And they had nothing but problems because of those particular assumptions. And they even came down sometimes. These people would move in together and not have a fidelity agreement. And they would be shocked when their partner, their live-in partner, was going out with somebody else. And that should have been the clearest thing up front. If we're this close together and moving in together with the outside possibility of getting married, wouldn't you, see, the supposition is, wouldn't you at least think there'd be sexual fidelity? But in some cases, there was not. And the disillusionment was great, and the breakup was even greater. So here's that, this is Don Miguel Ruiz sharing this. From the Four Agreements on page 66, making assumptions in our relationships is really asking for problems. Often we make the assumption that our partners know what we think and that we don't have to say what we want. We assume they know us so well. If they don't do what we assume they should do, we feel hurt and say, "You should have known." Likewise, married couples are not exempt from assumption troubles. Can we take this back again, please? Making assumptions in our relationships is really asking for problems. Often we make the assumption that our partners know what we think and that we don't have to say what we want. We assume they know us so well. If they don't do what we assume they should do, we feel hurt and say, "You should have known." Likewise, married couples are not exempt from assumption troubles. I think if you're married for a while, your assumption troubles diminish. But you always have that in the outgoing of your life. And now we have the grand concept of assumptions being shared here. This is the most problematic of the assumption problems. Can we have this next PowerPoint? In the Four Agreements on 69, you can read, "We make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume that others think the way we think, feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. This is the biggest assumption that humans make. And this is why we have a fear of being ourselves around others, because we think everyone else will judge us, victimize us, abuse us, and blame us as we do ourselves. So even before others have a chance to reject us, we have already rejected ourselves. That is the way the human mind works. We also make assumptions about ourselves, and this creates a lot of inner conflict." Can we take this back again? We make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume that others think the way we think, feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. And I can testify to have really fallen prey to this in a number of situations. One, when Norma broke her elbow and had to see a doctor, and they had to do an x-ray, and then they had to do some tests, and eventually she wound up getting a brace in her elbow. But the very first time we went in, I went in with her. The nurse took me into the doctor's inner office, and where he did his examinations. And he was examining her arm from the x-ray. And he was talking to her about doing a brace. And at that time, here's something that I did that was very stupid. At that time, some idiot doctor in New York City cut off the wrong leg of somebody that he had to operate on. And since then, there's a new protocol. Doctors dealing with removal of limbs and things like that, they have to paint the leg. They give the leg a color. And I jokingly said to him, so you're going to have to paint her arm red. And he sneered at me. And I thought he was a young doctor. I thought he was hip. I thought he knew it was just a joke. But he didn't. Every time we went in to get the treatment and the treatments afterward, his nurse would never allow me in the office. She would say, no, he only wants to see your wife. So it was a stupid thing to say. I said it jokingly, thinking he's a hip guy, he's going to catch on. I'm just fooling with him. But he took it really offensively. I'll tell you another one that got me into a lot of trouble. And some of you have heard me do this. I got a call about 2 months ago from a woman who said to me, you know, you really ought to be careful about telling lies when you're teaching people. And I said, oh, what are you talking about? Telling what lies? She says, the lies you tell about Eckhart Tolle eating pigeons. And now, maybe some of you heard me do this. When I talk about Eckhart Tolle's transformation, it occurred because he became completely disenchanted with the academic life he was pursuing. And he dropped out completely from the university. He dropped out from everything just to consider his life. And he would go every day to the park and sit on a park bench and feed the pigeons. And when I tell the story, I say, of course, toward the evening, he would catch a couple and take them home for supper. That someone would have taken that seriously is beyond me. But she actually checked it out with Eckhart Tolle. So I've done this on a couple of occasions. Sometimes I have to say I'm joking. I'm just kidding about that. Because I have this, this way of saying something for a humorous response. But I realize that some people just don't think the way I think, and they're not necessarily in the same type of understanding that I embrace. So when I do say something that's really outlandish, I often have to follow it up by saying, I'm joking or I'm kidding. Or sometimes I say, well, I'm just checking everybody for their gullibility level. Last Wednesday, again, I use something I say on occasion, because it was actually 2 Sundays back when I did both services. And at the second service, I said, it's always, a pleasure for me to be able to speak at the second service when Santisha is not in, because we actually, every year, we test both services to see what the average IQ is. And the second service has a 25-point higher average IQ. So far, nobody has called me on that, but it could happen. So we need to be very, very careful about thinking that other people think the way we do. And I'm being more aware of that. But it hasn't stopped me from, saying things that I think are humorous and meaningful in that respect. All right, so we're moving on now, because the one person that really does understand me is my dog. Teton understands me. Now, it's amazing how I don't take the time to train him specifically on things, but he has picked up on so many things on his own about me. He knows, because that when I get up early in the morning and I sit on the couch in this particular room that we have, that I'm there to meditate. And he's not permitted to come up and lick my face or to chew his bone, which is right there on the floor all the time. He knows that. And he's absolutely quiet. He will sit on the floor and stare at me when I go through the reading that I do prior to the meditation and then the meditation. He'll just stare at me, and he knows not to make any noise. He also knows when it's Sunday, because almost every morning of the week I take him out early in the morning, about 7 o'clock. I take him up into the woods behind our house in the mountains, and I turn him loose for a half hour, and then he comes back to me in the woods. But he only gets that on weekdays, and not every weekday, but only on the weekdays that I can do it. But on Sunday, when we go up to this area where I usually let him go, he turns right around himself and walks back toward the house. He knows it's Sunday. I don't know how. I guess he knows by watching Norma and I get up and prepare ourselves to come in to do Sunday service. But finally, this is what we should take with us from this particular talk. And we have this final PowerPoint. This is Don Ruiz on page 73. This then is the third agreement. Don't make assumptions. Just saying this sounds easy, but I understand that it is difficult to do. It is difficult because we so often do exactly the opposite. We have all these habits and routines that we are not even aware of. Becoming aware of these habits and understanding the importance of this agreement is the final step. But understanding is important, is not enough. Information or an idea is merely the seed in your mind. What will really make the difference is action. Now let me clue you in on the action that we are being called on to do. Resistance in the mind in regards to anything is catastrophic. Whatever you resist will become increased in your mind. How then do we deal with things that we do in mind that are not productive or meaningful or appropriate? We observe. We do not resist. We do not try to drive it out. We simply observe. And if you say, oh, I'm actually assuming something that may not be so, that's all. You don't do anything about it. I'm actually assuming something that may not be so. I'm making a judgment here that may not be so. And Byron Katie, who is another great teacher, says, when you pause and you observe something like that, ask yourself, is it true? And then ask again, is it really true? So, if we observe, we're simply shining the light on something that we may have a habit of doing. And when you shine the light on it, it is like shining the light on a thief. Eventually, you will not have assumptions coming to mind. That's the way it works. It's simply observation. Oh yeah, I'm judging. Oh yeah, I'm holding negative emotions. Oh yeah, I'm resisting this particular situation. And what happens is you're creating clarity with your own divine consciousness. Observe. Do not fight, do not resist, do not challenge, just observe and let it go. So we're going to meditate together now. Begin by taking a couple of deep breaths. As you release the breath, release any particular concerns that you may have, that you're dwelling on. And just for these few moments, you can observe and say, I don't need to be thinking that for now. I just need to be sitting here, tuning in, being present. I'm sitting here, tuning in, being present. And it helps us to realize how we create in mind those things that come to pass in our experience. And so we use the name of God for this particular mantra. See if you can get in touch with this. As you use this as a mantra for this meditation, these are words that the Master of Masters spoke to his disciples. I am in you, you are in me. I am the truth, the way, the life. I am the way of true life that will make you free. I am in you, you are in me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way of true life. I am in you, you are in me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way of true life. Be still and know that I am God. as we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space. Let us go forth with a greater determination to be awake in the process of living. For this opportunity in every moment, we give thanks. And to this, we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. As we're preparing to do this, I'd like to invite everyone that's watching this live stream. These are the ways you can tithe. You can scroll to the top right-hand corner of our website, and you can find a way to make a gift to Unity of Boulder. And I would encourage you to do so. If you're tuning in because you're seeking the truth that will transform your life. So be a vital part of it by supporting it. And everyone here can bring into their hands that gift they'd like to make to Unity of Boulder. And let's bless the gifts with this prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is.
Help me see beauty in and all around me. Guide my thoughts, choose my words to reflect love. This I pray. This I pray. This I pray.
Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen. So as usual, we have refreshments in Fellowship Hall, and you can stop in there and have some refreshments and tea, and if you want, you can hang out for a while. I'll be over there in 5 minutes. We'll have a circle of chairs over there, and we can have a discussion about anything you want to talk about, anything to do with this talk or anything that Unity is all about. So stick around and we'll have a wonderful discussion. You're also going to be privileged to listen to Santisha. She's at the second service. She's going to be doing the service. So you might want to stick around and come into the 11 o'clock service and listen to her share deep truths that heal our lives. To everyone, have a beautiful day.